Orcs, they have been a mainstay in many fictional and fantasy works and are most well known from the Lord of the Rings and the works of Tolkien, and then later on from Blizzard's universe of Warcraft and from Warhammer 40k when we talk about games. So here in this video we will take a look at which one has the best and biggest ones, the biggest orcs from fiction. Let's get to it. Let's begin with the orcs of Middle-earth. In Tolkien's Middle-earth, orcs are portrayed as corrupted and cruel creatures originally twisted by Morgoth from captured elves in the First Age, allegedly. Their size is described as being variable but typically smaller than men. Most orcs are short, stooped and wiry, standing between 3 and 5 feet tall, often compared to hobbits or short men or dwarves in height. However, their small stature is compensated by their ferocity and numbers. The Uruk-hai, introduced in the Lord of the Rings, were a stronger and larger breed created by Saruman. These orcs stood nearly as tall as men, averaging around almost 6 feet tall, with a robust build that made them formidable in combat. Well, they were actually described as being almost man-tall by Tolkien. However, in the Lord of the Rings, a few were seen to be actually taller than even Aragorn, who was stated to be 6 feet 4 inches in height. Tolkien also mentions larger, more imposing orcs such as the Great Goblin from The Hobbit, the effective ruler of Goblin Town under the Misty Mountains. He was killed by Gandalf and was described as tremendous in size, but with no explicit measurements. Two other worthy mentions are Azog and Bolg, who were orc chieftains of the Misty Mountains and are implied to be taller and more powerful than typical orcs. In Peter Jackson's film adaptations, these sizes are exaggerated for a cinematic flair. Azog and Bolg are portrayed as towering muscular beings around 7 feet tall, while the Great Goblin is an enormous grotesque figure possibly 9 to 10 feet tall. The artistic choice adds a sense of physical menace, but also deviates from Tolkien's more grounded descriptions. Now let's take a look at the Warcraft orcs. So in the Warcraft universe, orcs are a proud and battle-hardened race originating from the world of Draenor. Physically, they are significantly larger and more bulkier than men, with males standing around 7 feet tall on average. Their muscular build and imposing stature makes them natural warriors. While most orcs fall within this range, some notable individuals are even larger. For instance, Gul'dan, the cunning warlock, is depicted as slightly shorter but still formidable due to his hunched posture and his fell aura. Meanwhile, the war chiefs like the Black Hand are described as being over 8 feet tall or more, towering over most other humanoid races in Azeroth. Warcraft orcs are shorter than some other races like trolls or night elves, but their dense musculature makes them appear more massive. Their size symbolizes their ferocity in battle, and their cultural emphasis on honor and combat makes them very intimidating. Blizzard Entertainment's cinematic representations of orcs, especially in the world of Warcraft and Warcraft 3, and also the movie, showcases their sheer physical dominance compared to humans, and makes them look gigantic in size. Now let's get on to another fictional universe. The Orcs of Orcs and Men, a game, take a different approach. Based on a tragic storytelling, in this universe, orcs are enslaved and brutally persecuted by humans, despite their sheer size and power. The average orc stands around 8 feet tall, with a broad muscular build that would make them almost unstoppable in direct combat. Archael, the protagonist, exemplifies this physicality, but is also portrayed as a complex character, struggling with his role as a weapon for his people and his personal sense of morality. The game explores the relationship between orcs and humans, flipping traditional fantasy tropes. Despite their size and strength, orcs are oppressed and treated as lesser beings, which creates a stark contrast between their physical dominance and their vulnerable position in society. The narrative delves into themes of racism, slavery, and rebellion, using the towering orcs as symbols of misunderstood and exploited power. Then going on to another game called Extinction, the orcs here take the concept of size to a whole new level. These orcs are portrayed as relentless swarms of smaller creatures accompanied by towering, monstrous specimens referred to as ogres. The standard orcs resemble typical fantasy warriors but are more animalistic and brutal in behavior. The true spectacle, however, lies in the ogres, which are orcs as well, which can reach up to 150 feet tall. These giants are devastating forces of nature, capable of demolishing entire cities with ease. Their immense size and power makes them look kaiju, making them feel more like a natural disaster than an individual enemy. The game's premise revolves around combating these enormous orcs in desperate high-stakes battles, often requiring players to scale their massive bodies to take them down. This blending of fantasy tropes with titanic enemies makes a unique take on orcs, taking their trope of being physically dominant on an epic scale. Then lastly we have the orcs or the greenskins of Warhammer 40k. In the grimdark universe of Warhammer 40,000, orcs or greenskins are far larger and more brutal than their fantasy counterparts. These creatures are not just humanoid, they are fungus-based life forms bred by the old ones millions of years ago exclusively for war. Orcs grow larger and stronger the more they fight, with an average orc boy standing around 7 feet tall, covered in dense muscle and thick green skin. Their size increases with every combat experience, as orcs grow in response to their victories and the strength of their leadership. Orc war bosses, the leaders of the orc warbands and Wa, are truly massive, often towering over their followers at heights of between 10 to 15 feet. Legendary figures like Ghazghkull Mak Uruk Thraka, one of the most powerful orc warriors in the current setting, stand around 20 feet tall or 6 meters when clad in his mega armor, making him look like a walking tank of destruction. And even more enormous was a black orc that fought and was killed by the Emperor of Mankind during the Great Crusade in 30k. His name was Ghazghkull Blackfang and was the largest of his kind in his era, with some suggesting that he was far larger than even Ghazghkull and can be estimated to be between 25 and 30 feet tall. Then at the apex of orc evolution is the Beast, a colossal orc who emerged during the War of the Beasts in the 32nd millennium. This beast stood at an awe-inspiring 33 feet tall, capable of outmatching even the most powerful space marines and the Primarch Vulcan. So beyond them, ancient orcs known as Krogs, remnants from the War in Heaven, were believed to be even larger, possibly surpassing 40 to 50 feet in height and acting as the apex predators of their time, apex warriors. Warhammer 40k's orcs epitomizes the idea of might makes right, with their size and power growing directly proportional to their victories and the scale of their Wa. So that's all I have to say about the sizes of orcs in fictional works, books, games, movies, etc. Anyway, support us by liking and subscribing, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, fam.